published.
Hey, g'day everybody. It's Mr. B here from Western Australia, reaching out to you guys on this beautiful blue planet of ours. Good morning and good evening wherever you are. Anyway, I have a fantastic show with us tonight. A good friend of mine, who I've been friends for quite a while now, and this guy really kind of intrigues me all the time. He does intrigue me. The last time we actually spoke, I saw some months back. He woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning, or something like that. Hey, B, yeah, no, what is it, man? He says, I'm on Skinwalker Ranch. Come on, put that. So there we were. So we had a wonderful time there, and he showed me all over Skinwalker Ranch. And hey, nothing more to say. And here's my guest, Mr. Eric Mitchell. G'day, Eric. How are you, mate?
How you doing, Mr. B? Good to see you, my friend. It's a beautiful, beautiful day in the divided states of America. How are you?
Well, yeah, I'm faking it till I make it. It's actually nice and hot here. I put a bit of a tropical background, yeah, for you guys, because we're nice and warm here, and you guys are getting the chilly weather now over there. So I thought, well, I'll give you a bit of sunshine to brighten your days. Anyway, so what you been up to, mate? Hey, listen, I believe you're writing a book.
I am. As a matter of fact, publicly, this is the first time I've mentioned it, but yeah, I'm writing. It's about, I got attacked so much because I don't go public. I'm a private person. I don't do a lot of public things, and public things take up all your time. How do you have time to research if you're marketing yourself and information that you're not sure is true all the time? So, research literally takes all my time. So I don't go public a lot, but from the ignorance and the attacks, I might as well just put down everything I have done and been a part of. That way, the facts are down and therapeutic for me. I mean, it really is therapy going through all of that and staring at it on paper and thinking to myself, wow, you know, they say, don't look up, just keep going. And by the time you do look up and look back, you go, wow, did that all really happen? So for me, it's normal, but for other people, it could be quite fascinating.
Yeah. That's it's I mean, I've lived with it myself for many, many years. As I've mentioned to you before, I remember when my wife asked me about it, I explained it all to her, and she found it very difficult to accept. The words came out of her mouth, tell the Marines, and it is, and you tend to kind of go through life holding back. You want to talk about it because it's good therapy to talk about it, and people don't understand this, and if you do talk about it, they say, oh yeah, no, they're cuckoo, but that's the way the system is educators to think if you're not part of the system, you're something wrong with you, and
Yeah.
it's a sad situation.
Well, they say behind every great man is a wonderful woman rolling her eyes.
Well, I've definitely got one of those. Actually, I've got an angel. She's beautiful, mate. Actually, I'm very
But
fortunate. I'm very fortunate,
you are.
you know.
You
I most
definitely
definitely
are.
am.
And
Oh,
I
mate.
think what was it? George Carlin said that, we just love our BS. We love it. We absolutely can't get enough of our social engineering, social programming, and we just dive right into it like hungry, hungry hippo. And
Mm,
we're taught how to think. We're just taught how to think in our society, and it's a fallacy beyond belief to me.
right, right,
Stay open to everything and shut doors when your work is done. All
right,
cards are on the table until you can remove um,
right.
any of it.
Yeah, and
Absolutely
I've
any
got
of it. I would
g'day, Tennessee, Kentucky. Bigfoot, how are you, buddy? Good to have you on board there. Anyway, listen, for all my listeners out there, let's get back. How many years ago did it started? What actually happened to you? I mean, I know you had a lot of witnesses to this situation. What happened to you? How many? 10 or 16, something like that? Well, I'm not sure. What's the numbers?
2013. I didn't believe in UFOs. I thought just like anyone else. I was socially
Hmm.
engineered to believe people that talked about that kind of thing were absolutely crazy. And man, did I fight it! I fought it hard. I didn't want to believe it at all.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was July of 2013. I woke up standing
Hmm.
outside of my front door. My left shoulder was facing the door, and my right shoulder was facing the end of a short dead end street. And here's this fireball, looked like a miniature sun, about 40 feet in diameter, pretty big to be on the street, but it was hovering just above the street. It didn't bob, it didn't weave, it just kind of rippled like water, or rippled like the sun, looking at it. I had no idea what it was, and I had no idea why I was outside. I remember
Hmm.
my eyebrows squeezing together, like, what the hell is that? Not once did I think UFO. I mean, the only idea I had for a UFO is a 1950s film with a saucer hanging on a fishing string, with funny music in the background. So I convinced myself that it was an optical illusion. I went inside, I waited for the sun to rise so I can walk out and see that light bounced off of a shiny rock or something. Just any way to explain it. It's funny, the human mind, when you see things that aren't supposed to be real, you see things outside of your own classification, your mind just it absolutely goes in every direction to try to explain the experience that you're in, and I just couldn't. I literally couldn't. I mean, throughout the day, I was really quiet at work. Um, I did open the door and look out about 6:30 when the sun came up and it was gone. There was no explanation, so I was really quiet and confused all day at work, and I couldn't explain it. I mean, later throughout the day, I remember being at a doctor's office, and I was reading those magazines that nobody's interested in, but it was a science magazine, and I remember reading about the postulations of the existence of ball lightning. So I thought, wow, I saw ball lightning. How cool. About 9:30 that night, I got, the kids working with the homework and, single father cooking, cleaning, doing the whole thing. And, I'm a smoker, I went outside to smoke, and I'm kinda pacing back and forth looking at that spot thinking, "Wow, I didn't have a camera, I didn't wake up the kids, I shoulda had a witness. I mean, ball
Hmm.
lightning must be real. It must be a real thing, wow." And just as I was putting my cigarette out, I looked up in that spot again, and I saw a little orange light about this big, and it just slowly grew into 40 feet in diameter. I couldn't see in the dark what was going on, but I just saw this light, and it grew to that size again. And it started moving very slowly, blinking slowly, completely out, and slowly coming back on about 2 miles an hour. And it made like a horseshoe coming all the way around me. I had to turn my body to watch this thing. And here in America, we have a thing called a red wasp. You can think of maybe a bee sting or something like that. They hurt pretty
Yeah.
badly. And every time one gets near me, I know I'm bigger than this thing, but I can see it plotting on me, and I know they hurt. And it gave me kind of that ominous feeling of this thing kind of slowly moving around and knowing I'm here. So now I'm realizing that this thing is somehow intelligently doing this, you know? And so I'm turning my body and it ends up just above my front door, one-story apartment, maybe 12, 15 feet from my forehead, and it flashes twice really fast and shoots off as fast as a bullet. It was gone. Now, like a scared goat, my knees locked up. I couldn't move. It wasn't an external force keeping me from moving. I froze. I couldn't believe what I just saw. And not to mention air displacement at that speed or a shockwave from surpassing 700 miles an hour. My body's about to get ripped apart. And I just stood there waiting for it. There was no way I could run, you know, but nothing happened. No air, no shock, no anything. And I stood there for a ridiculously long period of time knowing it was going to hit me, and it just didn't. And I finally, I must have looked really funny with my legs not being able to buckle as I duck walked into the house and locked the door behind me because we all know that's the safest thing to do. But yeah,
Yeah,
I, I couldn't
I
sleep.
got this special picture of it. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, we've all had those times. But but yeah, the next day I got home from work. I was exhausted. I didn't sleep most of the night. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I mean, most of that entire night, I'm still terrible with computers, but I opened my daughter's laptop and I spent most of the night trying to find out what's what this thing is. It must be military application. It must be something. But of course, all I ran across was conspiracy theories and just silly things. So I couldn't find what I was looking for. But the next day, I was coming home from work and my car was overheating, which is a huge no-no if you're a single dad with no family. You just can't afford it. You can't deal with that in life. It'll set you back months at a time. And I was really upset about that. So I pulled into the driveway, and my buddy Dan, he was with the Air Force, right, Pat, 2 4-year terms, and he had been home for a little while, living with his wife right across from me, and we became good friends. And he came out, he saw the smoke. We started pinching the hoses and looking for leaks, and the worst was realized. My water pump was it was the water pump. It was the ball bearing. It was out. So $350 part on top of the responsibilities I already had. And I was upset. Dan gave me a big man hug, went in the house, got a beer, gave me the beer, and I kind of put it on the hood of the car because I was going to drink that damn thing. I needed it that day. Um, and Dan, he, we call her Mama. Dan's wife, she is really good Southern cooking, just really good. And she was making dinner. So he happily went inside and I stepped back to grab that beer and I was standing on my shoelace. And so when I stepped back, I looked down and I realized, damn it, I just untied my shoelace. My car's screwed up. I got this weird light thing in the back of my mind I'm thinking about. So I kneel down, I'm tying my shoe, and I feel a light vibration on the top of my head. Very subtle, but noticeable. And within seconds, it's almost like someone turned the dial all the way up to a million. So if you're maybe standing in front of a rock and roll speaker at a concert, you can feel that vibration on your chest. Well, if you can imagine that vibration on your head and then turn it up to a million, it knocked me directly down. I was no longer aware of any of my surroundings whatsoever. I knew I was throwing up because my throat would open for a long period of time and close. And the only thought I can push through my mind is, oh my God, I'm being killed. I didn't know by who or by what, but it was just that strong. And I mean, I felt my jeans scooting across the pavement ever so slightly back and forth, like I had a magnet above my head, just kind of pushing me. I'm non-magnetic, but it turns out I learned later on from scientists that the iron in your blood is negatively charged. So if you take a 5-gallon bucket of pig's blood and you take a 100-pound neodymium magnet, you can push that bucket across the room without it ever touching. So that was that rocking back and forth type of feeling. Um, I pushed myself off the ground. I couldn't get to my door. I couldn't really move. I pushed myself off the ground and I looked up, and that object was just above my head. It flashed twice very quickly and shot off the opposite direction that it did the night before, like a bullet, just absolutely gone in the blink of an eye.
And
And
how long? Sorry, and how long did this happen? How long? What this kind of been going? What you went through? How long did it take? How long?
for me, that's a huge problem because it was daylight when it happened. It it kind of felt like forever, but for me in real time, it felt like 12, 15 seconds tops.
Right.
But when you're that scared, it felt like it lasted forever. But when it took off, when I looked up and it took off, it was nighttime, and it shouldn't have been. It should
And
not have been nighttime.
was there other people observing what was going on to you at that time?
At the time, no. No, and not at the time, but I learned years later that Dan came back out, his friend Sammy came over, and there were a
Right.
couple of other people, and they all saw this happen. And I didn't know that for a couple of years. I finally came back home to Arkansas and met with Dan, and big, strong African American military man, ripped, the tough as nails. And he broke down, put his arms around me, and he bawled his eyes out. And, by then I've dealt with this a lot. I've become cold. And, so I really didn't show a lot of emotions, but you can tell he was holding that inside for a long time. And he said, "I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to help you." And I said, "Dan, there's nothing you could have done. I would have ran. I would have ran too." I mean, and he said that he saw a blue pencil beam of light come down and hit me in the head, and all of a sudden there's vomit flying out of my face. That must have looked scary as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, you could take the toughest guy in the world seeing something like that, and you're gonna turn and run. That's a natural reaction. I didn't blame him whatsoever. And how can you help somebody like that? I mean, you can't. I immediately, God, I laid in that driveway for at least 20 minutes, and I have people come at me all the time saying that's not a natural reaction. A natural reaction is you get up immediately and run and go inside. And I tell them, no, I was there. This happened to me. Let me tell you what happens. Your primal instincts kick in. It's dark outside. This thing can move faster than a bullet. I'm looking left, I'm looking right, I'm observing every sound, every smell, every single sense in my brain just kicks on, and I'm gonna make it to that door, but I'm gonna do it in a way where I know I'm gonna be safe. So I did. Um, it took me 20 minutes to get to that door because God, my legs were so shaky. Um, my body was so hot. I had burns all over my skin, all over my face. It looked like a sunburn. My vision's always been 20/20, and my eyes were forever blurry after that. And if you talk to a scientist about that, they'll tell you an electromagnetic field pushed and pulled on your eyes so much that you need reading glasses to see far away and up close. And that's what I
Right.
did. I found some reading glasses, and I've been wearing those ever since. Prescriptions won't help.
Yes,
But that
apparently, I believe, yes, you lost some senses, like with your sight, but the thing is, you gained other senses, I believe.
I did, and some people have the misconception of thinking that it was a good thing at the time.
Mm.
And I've talked to a lot of people that have gone through savant syndrome. I was a basic redneck. I had a deep twang. I wanted to go fishing with my buddies. Very simple life here in Arkansas. So now my friends are saying, "Quit using all them big fancy words. I can't understand you, Eric." you know, but but I did, almost immediately, I felt a thirst for knowledge. I was
Mm.
devouring books in libraries, and
Yeah.
it was an it was an
Even to this day, mate, I don't understand those big fancy words.
well, I like to
Yeah.
call it, and experiencers go through this too. I call it mashed potato mountain syndrome, and you
Yes.
become obsessed on what is this new reality? What does it mean? You absolutely become obsessed because you want answers, and on top of that, your brain is rerouting in a way that you can obtain so much information. So I didn't pick up one book from the libraries on UFOs. I still didn't know
Actually,
what it was.
the crazy thing about it all is, most people that experience abductions, who are abductees, experience they change within themselves. I mean, some people like I don't want to talk about myself. This is about your story, but I mean, for me, I became more of an intuitive empath. Uh,
It's about all of
right?
us. It
Yeah,
literally is
and it
about all of
does
us. Now,
change. It just change things with people, and you don't get a say in it. It's like you got this sixth sense sort of thing. It's like, okay, what's happening around you, and I hear where you're coming from, but also too, you actually transmit frequencies. That's the thing. Have you ever been checked out
well,
for any implants or anything like that, Eric?
yeah, I did. I frantically looked on Facebook. I was very new to Facebook at the time. My kids actually had an intervention with me, and they pulled out a smartphone. I had a flip phone. They said, "Dad, you're gonna have to, get with the times here." I'm in my mid 40s now, and so I'm still plugging away at trying to learn this stuff. But
Right.
um, I did notice the next morning that there was something going on with my brain other than rapid fire, and I felt a rumbling inside my head, and I grabbed the kitchen counter and I braced for impact. I had believed that this thing was back and it was above my apartment.
Mm.
Um, Once I kind of relaxed, the feeling went away, and I went to my couch and sat down, and it started tensing down again. I started feeling these intense vibrations in my brain. So I relaxed again and realized that I was able to relax it away. So I kind of tensed a little bit, and there it was. I heard the sound. So I jumped up in disbelief. I'm looking at the palms of my hand. I'm shaking my head, pacing back and forth, going, "No, no, this can't be happening. I've got some sort of brain tumor, or maybe I have schizophrenia, or an injury on your finger, an injury on your leg, a shark bite on your butt. For God's sakes, is scary, but an injury to your brain is the scariest thing anyone can imagine." You know, and so all these things were going through my mind. And at the same time, cognitive dissonance. None of this can be real. It just can't be happening. So I did reach out on Facebook. I found the Kentucky State Director of MUFON. I didn't know what MUFON was, but this person obviously knew about lights in the sky and stuff like that. So he collected a bunch of people together, did a MUFON case. I think they turned in a very basic report on paperwork. This man wanted to protect me because once he realized how real all this was, he wanted to protect me from MUFON, from everything, to make sure I was all right, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. It wasn't long after that I was getting phone calls from people in the Travis Walton case. I didn't know who this Travis guy was. I was getting called from people that called themselves ufologists. First time I heard that word, I was like, man, maybe I can take an online class and learn all this stuff. Well, it turns out it's not a real ology, and it's self-proclaimed. There's no courses you can take in becoming that particular type of ologist. But yeah, I did get kind of carted around a little bit by ufology, and I realized that it was, for the most part, now some of the most wonderful people I've met are in there, but the going theme is to try to be popular, I guess, one-upmanship on each other, and try to gather, whether true or false, information to keep being in the public, keep being seen and recognized as this great thing. And I
Well,
think
this
it
is where
kind
the
of turned.
this is where the problem is with ufology at the moment, where a lot of people out there don't understand it's an industry. It is an industry. And
Right.
when we're talking about industry, we're not talking about monetization on, YouTube and all that stuff. We're talking about books, documentaries. We're actually talking about, merch shops and God knows what. Then the airline companies make a fortune with people traveling from from one place to another place. They go to conferences. The hotels make a lot of money. There's my little baby barking out in the background there. You know, so there's so people that understand it's an industry, and of course they will promote something in a way where they make this bubble really big and say disclosure's coming, it's coming now, and it's coming big. And that when it does come, it's like a wet fart. Nothing happens. You know what I mean? It's like it sizzles out, and we're back to the same. But in the meantime, while all this hype has been going on, another documentary was released, and maybe not one, but a couple of or a few documentaries have been released, and the sales are good. People expecting, they're coming up with speculating. It's the same story in a different format, in different order, and people don't understand that. Nobody, I'll be honest, true ufologists do not want UFO. They don't want full disclosure, because if they did, they've got nothing else to talk about.
Well, it's classic.
It's a political situation, you know.
Right. It's classic letdown syndrome. Hype it up, hype it up, hype it up, let everyone down. I mean, you know, anybody that's been in a crappy relationship with somebody, you always hear, I'm going to get better, I'm going to stop doing this. And of course, it never changes. So, you know, that same kind of thinking comes from central intelligence, social engineering. So, you know, if you're a top dog getting information from the CIA, you feel special. You don't know you're lying to the people, you know. So I've kind of stayed away from that. There's a guy I've learned about. We had some of the same investigators, Chris Bledsoe Sr., and he's allowed some of those people around his home and family and stuff like that. And I worry about him. I do. I worry about that kind of thing, because there's no telling what kind of bad information he might be getting for himself. And you know, that's one out of millions of experiencers here in this world. You know, and God, I've gotten phone calls. I'm going to make you popular. I'm going to put you on my website. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I'm just not interested in that. If I want to be special me, I can call mom. You know what I mean? That's the only person that thinks I'm special.
Well, I don't chase numbers. I chase quantity, right, and quality. Two different things. I rather have quality followers, people that listen, that are really serious into it. I'm not chasing the numbers. I'm not interested in monetization. I'm not interested in any of that. You know, I mean, this is what I do. This is what I do, not just as a hobby. I'm very serious in what I do. People don't know what I do behind in my own spare time. I do my own research and things. And you get into it. I mean, but who's going to really this? I mean, nobody really. See, most people don't really give don't give a rat shit, because after they watch a show, they've got to get on to either washing up the dishes, or they've got to go to work, or they're going to get on with everyday normal life, which is natural.
Yeah, that's the best. That's one of the great things I like about you is you look for the truth and you find it. You know.
Yeah, and I speak it too. I mean, I don't give a damn if I offend people. Now, I mean, I won't say names. I had one particular bloke complain what I posted, and if I see this again, I'm going to unfriend you. And I just turn around and say, don't bother. Just if I don't want rude, arrogant people following me, I'm not interested in it. I don't care, you know. And this is a well-known personality, believe it or not. Mate, it goes to their head, you know. I don't worry about people like that. I really don't. But I had something interesting I want to play, and I want you to talk us through as we play it. This is all about you, right? This is where you're with your friends there, and they put on a microphone to your head and picking up some readings. I will stop it every now and then that you can speak up. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Here we go.
See what you
have. I was thinking, like, think of a Kate. Like, if anybody were to like try to debunk this, like, what would they think? So I tried to put myself in that kind of frame of mind.
Microphone.
So I'm thinking, like, because it sounds so like tactile. I was thinking, like, is he grinding his teeth? So I tried that. It isn't the same hertz level, but it's like your teeth would have to be super long to make that long of a noise. And
by the way, who is that bloke in the first place?
That's a good friends of mine from UFO Garage.
Okay,
man filming is Nico. He's a director, and they're actually putting together a very brief documentary about what happened to me. You know, it's and what we just went over the first 3 days, the first 3 occasions, the first 2 days. But But yeah, right. Great guys, great people.
I'll keep playing it, mate.
Consistent. It's like the same.
Let's do it with my mouth open.
We'll do it that way? Shall. Yes.
All right, let's do that.
Yes.
It may look funny, but I like the way you think.
Anything that we could rule out on camera, let's rule it out.
And I appreciate that, guys. I probably wouldn't have thought about grinding my teeth.
But
and if people take a good notice of this,
well, don't ruin your enamel over there.
We're rolling over there?
Yes.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
And that's you transmitting frequencies from the brain, correct?
I mean, yeah, I'm picking it up. I wonder if there's anything. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you had your mouth open. So, dude, yeah, it's coming through loud and clear. Is there anything we could try to test out? Like maybe do like a 1, 2, 3, and then long.
Sure.
Yeah. And he's still holding it.
You can probably see the microphone moving as well.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, dude, that's pretty awesome. I don't know how you're doing that, other than what you're trying to tell us.
Yes. What happened was.
I love the way you just said that, Ben.
You're trying. You told him already. Okay, so yeah, I went to school for music, and I picked up a lot of things from some really knowledgeable people. So from what little I do know and I do on a regular basis, I'm used to looking at audio frequencies and sound waves. This doesn't look like anything I've seen before. It's definitely like sub 250 hertz range, which is lower than usually what a voice usually sings at or whatever. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, it's hard to pass even higher pitches through brain tissue, bone tissue, flowing water and blood flow around the brain. I mean, it's got to surpass all that. So even higher pitches are going to sound lower than what your intention is because of all that passive. Now, my ear canal has less bone density, and so do the holes in my skull. So you're going to get a clear picture on screen, maybe sound on screen, or with your headphones, but...
Yeah.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. It really is.
I was really shy about it in the beginning. I didn't know what was wrong with me, so it was hard to show the investigators and all that stuff, but I was able to do it. Meanwhile, the activity on my street kept going on. These things were not just only in the sky, but they would come down in the yard. My neighbors were getting scared. Helicopters started showing up with spotlights, Black Hawk helicopters. My neighbor Debbie, the local cat lady, everybody's got a cat lady in their neighborhood. She called from work. She worked at the Lakeshore condos, about 1.4 miles from where I lived. And she said, Eric, I just went into this man's room to clean it, and he's got pictures of you and the kids all over his bed. There's a ledger on the nightstand of everything you do when you go to work, when you come home. He said, this man is stalking you. Well, I'm a single dad and I have daughters. That was my first thought, B. That was my first thought. I'm going to clean my shotgun and go shoot this guy. I said, Debbie, hang up the phone, go to the office and get that man's name. I want his name right now. So she goes to the office and calls me back. And she said, his name is Lieutenant Colonel Dallas C. Wood. So I called my investigator in Kentucky. I said, this man is stalking me and he's a lieutenant colonel. So he sent her 5 different faces, and out of a lineup, she pointed out this man's face, and it matched a man that worked for the United States Pentagon, Foreign Relations and Foreign Technologies. He was there to spy on me and the kids. and he got caught red-handed. So I had that name. Really didn't know a lot about that guy. My investigator pulled what little dossier he could on this man. He should have had books and books. The military writes down everything. But as a lieutenant colonel, this man didn't have much of a background at all. It was like it just disappeared. So people on my street started moving away. And over the months, me and the kids were the last people that lived on the street. There were 23 apartments, 3 trailers, everybody gone. And this is the short version. We don't have all day, but my daughter got accepted to college in Maine. And I saw it as an opportunity to get away from all of it, every single bit of it, start my life over, act like it never happened, and everything's going to be fine, you know. So we get to Maine, and I made sure it was a great trip. We stopped and went to so many fun places. You know, I made it a fun trip for the kids, and we get to Maine. We get into our apartment. It's a big building. That clearly used to be a big house, and it was chopped up into apartments. And we were on the third story. Met our new neighbors. We went out on the back deck. We had beers and cigarettes, and we're talking, getting along. And I got that feeling, that feeling I started to get used to here in Arkansas, that it was here. And I can't really explain it. Most people will tell you when they saw a UFO, they say, I just thought to look up. So there is some kind of connection there. Maybe quantum entanglement would be a good placeholder word for that. But I looked up, and this thing was coming through the park across the street, went up over the tree line, and dipped down eye level with us, right there in front of the third story deck, the back deck. My neighbors were kicking over the chairs and pushing each other. They were trying to get into the back door, and they noticed that me and the kids had no reaction whatsoever. We were used to it. B, my heart sunk into my stomach. I just moved 2,000 miles away to get away from this. And my first night, September 1st, 2014, here this thing is scaring my new neighbors, which was heartbreaking. I had so many daydreams about, you know, having a normal life again. I was so happy about going on with my life, and here this thing is 2,000 miles away. So,
well, unfortunately, that's not your mission in life. Well, I believe everything happens for a reason, and with the abilities you have at the moment, apparently, I believe that you can remote view with these abilities. Am I correct?
it's a maybe a form of remote viewing. Yeah, yeah.
Would
I
you
don't know.
consider yourself as a conduit for communication?
I think so. I honestly think so.
Yeah,
I try to stay away from popularized, terms or ideas.
yeah,
I know the military had remote viewing, but I learned how to meditate in the very beginning. I wasn't good at it. You don't try to meditate anyway. You
yeah,
allow meditation to happen. Leave yourself
yeah,
alone and you meditate.
yeah.
But
I
I
I,
had
I, re-
people.
I, I relate to
I
what you're
had people.
saying because, sorry.
Yeah, I had people contact me from India. They believed that these things are their gods, and they wanted to teach me
Mm.
how to meditate and stuff like that. I had a qigong master in Indonesia. We spent a lot of time trying to teach me meditation, and it was really good tools. But when he taught me remote viewing, it wasn't to pick a location and see what's there. You just allow these images that pertain to your life or your future to flow through. And who sends those images? I have no idea. What allows you to do that? Is it just simply non-locality, coupled with a little bit of intuition? I mean, I get curious about that, but I also know I can only get the answers that I can personally obtain. Back on Milk Lane in Hot Springs, Arkansas, when all this started happening, I bought a 38. I loaded it, waited for the kids to go to bed. I didn't want them to find my body. I couldn't deal with it. I could not deal with this reality that's not supposed to exist. So I went out into my Cadillac And I put that gun in my mouth, and my phone rings. It was my investigator. He didn't know what I was doing that night. I didn't tell him, but he talked to me for 4 hours, not about the investigation, but how I was doing. How could I deal with all this stuff that was going on? And he calmed me down, and I decided to put that gun away, and I started to cry. I said, you know, all that you've done for me and my children, holding us together, making sure we have emotional support. How could I ever repay you for this? Maybe I can make some extra money and send it your way. He said, no, Eric, listen to me. He said, once you get on your feet, I want you to help people just like you. And that's been my main goal. I don't make money from helping people like me or anything. I'm just a kind ear that knows what the process is like. I know what it's like to go through that. And, people that suffer from breast cancer are now still alive, and they're shooting for breast cancer awareness. So why
There's a
wouldn't I?
purpose. There's a
Well,
purpose.
yeah,
There's definitely a purpose.
right. Why wouldn't I stand up? Why wouldn't I want to stand up when I know this kind of suffering is in the world? But B, I had no idea how much it was. It's everywhere. It's every country. It's all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah.
And I've gotten so phonetic with it. I can point out an experiencer at a bar, just be like, see that person right there? They've had experiences. And I'm right. I will approach them and I will talk to them about it, and I'll buy them a extra shot or two.
It's like when we first met. You knew straight away. I knew straight away. I mean, you do see through
Yeah.
it. I mean, the amount of times I listen to people and they're saying they're talking about it, and because I'm a skeptic as much as I'm a believer in
Me too.
ufology. I'm also a skeptic, and because there's so much BS going on, people. I mean, and I think I don't want to break away from the conversations, mate, but it's what people can't understand is that the amount of whistleblowers that are out there, and and they said they've done this and done that, and blah blah blah. Well, people have got to ask themselves, well, what kind of a security do we have to keep secrets quiet? You know what I mean? I mean, to me, that's a bloody big concern. And if people were whistleblowing, right, really, the government should be saying, okay, to these people, they're saying there's whistleblowers, they should be going up to these people and say, okay, who told you? Because that is against the law to speak shit like that if it's real and it's top secret. That's a breach of security, but nobody's being secured.
As far as I know, David Grush is the only person I know about that filed paperwork against the DOD in order to actually whistleblow on the subject. Everybody else claims to be a whistleblower, but you have to file the proper federal paperwork and your grievance. And I think he's the only one that's done that. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, over time, I became absorbed by finding these people in any way possible. I mean, it got to the point where I can look at your Facebook page and you have nothing UFO in there whatsoever, but your basic framework. Everybody has an external story, but the internal story of the quintessential experiencer seemed to be an exact match every single time. If you are an African man sleeping in a grass hut and you've never seen a TV, and you trade extra grain and extra fish to go into the city and get someone that knows how to use the internet, find Eric Mitchell, and it's there. It's there. It's just absolutely there. So I got a call one day. This man was, his name was Ray Hernandez, and a brilliant man. I mean, he's a PhD candidate for Berkeley. He's a tax attorney in, I believe, Miami. I could be wrong, but I know it's Florida. It's been a while since I've spoken to him, but he was in mashed potato mountain mode. Like, this happened to me. I know it really happened to me, and I'm like, hey, buddy, calm down. It's nice to meet you. I believe what you're saying. I've heard the same thing from a lot of different people. And we began the process. And man, I could tell right away he's been through it. His wife had gone through it. And he comes to me one day and he said, Eric, this should be in academia. Ufology is a circus. And I said, well, of course it needs to be in academia. but who the hell can we get, on this? And most importantly, what do we tell them to look at? Where's the proof? Where is the evidence? And I start thinking to myself phonetically over and over, I see the proof every day. If a PhD could possibly see what I see, they would be convinced beyond any equivocation. They would be absolutely convinced of what I already know to be true. So maybe psychology and sociology is the best way to go about this. So being the Ray Hernandez that Ray Hernandez is, he starts contacting PhDs. I got to meet Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man on the moon, Apollo 14, and we started the Edgar Mitchell Free Organization. We were able to gather 19 PhDs, and I was feeling good. I told him, I said, look, I'm not going to be a part of any organization because I help organizations and I stay to where I'm going. If you get caught up, then you're caught up. No, I'll consult, I'll help, I'll do whatever you want, but I'm not going to be a part of any organization. And to this day, I stand by that. I help organizations and I move on. People get caught up too much in that, and the drama and all that. I just don't want that stuff. If you want me to do a job at home, I'll take care of it. So I contacted over 10,000 experiencers in over 127 different countries, calling all calling all experiencers. I wanted this study to be real, to be right, and it there were some bumps in the road, but it became a really good study. And they published a book on it, 980 pages from 19 PhDs. And if there was nothing there, it would have been a single paragraph saying we looked and we found nothing there. It turned into a 980 page academic pages in this book. We had pie graphs where our answers matched up 86%, 98%. We were literally, you can tell that we were all experiencing the same thing on the inside. Now, let's forget about the lights in the sky. Let's pay attention to the lights in our hearts because that's where it's at. And it was astonishing. And from there on, I decided academics is the way to go. It's just the way to go. Nothing's going to get done in ufology. Nothing has been done in 80 years. That's a long enough chance for me. So
let's get the proper research, scientific research involved. I believe you're going to be. I won't go. I know you can't go into detail with it, but you are going to be a lab rat. Was it a lab rat again for lab rat again for a little while soon? So well, I know you can't talk about that so much until
more lab rat time. I remember my daughter back in the very beginning. She got a couple of movies for us to watch, and one of them was Sirius by Dr. Stephen Greer. And I find the guy kind of interesting, but at the same time, the other 50%, I was kind of weary. But they were looking at this little Anaconda being from the desert, and it was just a weird looking thing. And I thought, wow, he believes this thing's an alien. Here on Earth.
You're talking about a businessman here. All right, let's get it right. Dr. Stephen Greer,
yes.
He's a good man. I don't blame a guy for making a living. You know what I mean? All I'm saying, he's been into ufology for over 20-odd something years. He must have been a lousy doctor. That's all I can say. Sorry, I shouldn't really bag somebody, but the point is, yes, he's a movie maker, and people have got to understand this. He's a movie maker. Now, if you want to go and spend time at the Joshua Tree, if people only knew the cost to spend one evening with him at the Joshua Tree, I mean, I think it's somewhere in about 3,000 to 4,000. I think.
Well, scientists, it's a lot of money, but scientists,
it's the truth.
It's an unfortunate truth that all scientists are trained to be capitalists, because if you want me to study something, the money better be there. All the scientists go where the funding is at, and that's how they make a living, So if Experiencer Studies had $10 million, we'd tip this thing right off the table. I've got the resources to get it done right now. But the funding is very difficult in that area. There's such a big X on that in our society right now, which it really needs to change, and I think it's slowly changing now. But I saw this Sirius movie, and I saw this. It there was a scientist willing to look at this thing. And I looked him up. It turns out he worked at Stanford. So I sent him some emails and I was telling him, that part of the brain is what I'm feeling, this and that, blah, blah, blah. He didn't get back with me. Busy guy, really busy guy, brilliant man, 6 PhDs, accomplishments behind him that I'll never achieve in my lifetime. I mean, just absolutely brilliant guy. And later on in the years, to fast forward, I was contacted by some people at Harvard University. They were really curious about things. I filled them in. I introduced them to people at Stanford that I knew were doing the work. And so they got involved, and now they're corresponding back and forth. And every now and again, I'll get on the phone with them and learn what they're learning, kind of guide them a little bit from the inside. I'm no expert. I'm no scientist. I don't even think I'm smart. But from the inside out, I know who I am. As the quintessential experiencer, I know how they are as well, all over the world. And this is how we feel. This is things that we notice. This is what our brain does. We attract narcissists like you wouldn't believe. That's one talent we all have in common, but there are so many. It's ridiculous. I mean,
yeah. Well, I get rid of those. As soon as I come across them, I say goodbye.
Yeah. You learn real quick.
That's right. Yeah, it's yes. Again, it's your apologies. It's very crazy, and I can understand why a lot of people get turned off with it too.
Yeah, I met a new. I met I met a new friend last year. I didn't know he was a PhD at the time, but I went to a UFO conference. I didn't really want to go, but a good friend of mine was there, and she's one of the most awesome people I know in the world. And so I wanted to see her, meet her husband, and of course I found out Travis was going, and me and Travis roommated for about 8 months together up in Maine. I know that sounds far fetched, but trust me, it was. But just circumstance, happenstance. But I showed this man what I can do with my brain, and he had a profound experience with it, and I've got to know him just a little, not a whole lot, but we're looking at going to his university and judging from like blood work and areas of the brain, the cortex putamen, basal ganglia, all the things that we know in the beginning of experiencer studies. We can take all that and apply it to one full study on myself. I'm not excited. I don't like needles. I don't like blood work. I don't like having my brain looked at, because when I think of my brain, I think of a running wheel with a rat inside, chasing a piece of cheese. But apparently there's a little bit of neural activity going on up there. So to benefit not only myself and to everyone else that lives with constant cognitive dissonance about themselves, maybe we can, for the first time, do the testing, and it's agreed that we can share this testing results with the public instead of kind of keeping it and kind of talking about it. I don't have any NDAs, so I can release it to the public and people can read it. We'll have it peer reviewed by scientists because I want it to be the right information, and have the public take a look. If you're an experiencer and you're dealing with cognitive dissonance, which we all are, all of us are, we can take these notes and peer reviewed paper and look at it and say, this is science. It is proven. Get over yourself. We're done. So if I can contribute in that way, I'm happy to. There's just too many people out there that suffer, and they have to do it quietly. I've met so many people that say, I've been in the same bed with my husband, or I've been in the same bed with my wife for 20 years, and I've never spoken a word to her. Can you imagine what that feels like?
Been there, done that. And when I did tell my wife, tell the Marines. Yeah. The response straight away, and you just know sometimes it's just better off keeping your bloody mouth shut with certain people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You're better off. But it's not the senses we pick up, like the senses you pick up, it's not a gift. It's a freaking curse. And this is what people don't understand. It's a curse. I mean, I mean, all I can say is, how do you like to kind of wake up one morning or go to work one night, and the next morning you're saying to yourself, something's wrong. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And you ring around everybody. You try and say, are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah, everybody's fine. Then that same day, that evening, you get a phone call saying, oh, mum's in hospital. Okay. Oh, she's all right. Yeah, just come in after work. So when you go in the following morning after work, she dies 20 minutes after in your arms. But you knew nearly 24 hours in advance something was wrong. Look at a phone 5 seconds before it rings, and you know damn who it's going to be. You know the name straight away. You don't know. I mean, how do you work this shit out? I'm not psychic. I can tell you that now. I'm not psychic.
But you're intuitive. And that's words that are used.
And I was working in Kalgoorlie. I was working in Kalgoorlie. That's a mining town, right? I had this urge to go home. Well, I didn't. I found out later that my eldest brother put my father in a nursing home. Didn't bother telling me. And when I got back, I had 3 visits with him, and my father passed away. And I said to the nurse on the day, "Can you call me when my father passes?" And she looked at me really strange, right? And she said, "Well, I'm on till 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, so I'm doing the night." I said, "Okay, if you don't, just go." Well, I got a call that night at 1:00 or 1:00 in the morning. When I went in, she just looked at me and said, "How did you know?" I didn't.
I'm gonna try to explain this the best way I know how, not for myself, but for anybody that might be listening or curious about this whole thing. Now, scientifically, if you look at a let's see, monarch butterfly. Let's use a monarch butterfly. I like to use that one because the first, second, and third generation stay where they're born. They flourish, they mate, they do butterfly stuff. They might even play butterfly gin for all we know. Now, the fourth generation has an electromagnetic field in their brain developed just like a bird. And within that random nucleotide polymorphism in their DNA, they fly south for the winter, just like birds do. It's incredible, just absolutely incredible. So, within human beings, when you want to find the quintessential experiencer, it's not the first, second, third, and fourth generation. It's random. So, it's in your family line somewhere, and it's an epigenetic gene, which means that gene is sleeping. So, you may never be that experiencer. What triggers this gene to wake up is early childhood trauma. Now, imagine this: your caudate nucleus, your caudate putamen, is known in neurology. It's always been known as motor function. I don't want to trip on this chair. I don't want to stub my toe. And so you begin to have maybe a rotten childhood. I don't know if dad's going to come home drunk. I don't know if mom's going to feed me today. I don't know if dad's going to beat me because I forgot to take out the trash. So this motor function starts to grow. First, your DNA is triggered. Second, your brain starts to grow in that area. And it can grow up to its own 100 billion neurons, which is kind of nicknamed either the antenna or the brain within the brain. So as this thing develops, it develops empathy. I want to know what other people are feeling. That way I can feel safe. Premonitions and intuitive ability, which used to be laughable, but now it's normal in science. You pick up this intuitive ability to know your surroundings a lot better, to stay safe as a child while your brain is still developing. And by the time you turn 25, basically your brain is set. Now, there are things that do grow and change after that, including this part. So, the more trauma that you go through, the more empathy and intuitive parts kind of shine through. Now, here's the tricky thing with intuitive and empathic abilities. Um, let's say it's the holidays. You've got kids running around the house yelling and screaming. You can't focus on what you're doing. So you grab a child and you sit them down on their butt and say, now, damn it, you play. Well, what you have just done there, the child's imagination did not spark. You did not spark that child's imagination. As a matter of fact, what you did is you absolutely shut it down. The child doesn't know how to play. I just got slammed on my butt and it got scorned, and I'm not in a playful mood, right? So it's the same thing in this brain apparatus where people say, now you have to be psychic. Well, you just turned it off. You have to, in order to study this, you have to let it flow by itself and observe it in its own environment, and then you'll see it flourishes. And that's the same thing with us experiencers. Yeah, we're thinking, man, I'd really like to be more psychic today. Well, we just
Mm.
put that thing away. But if you just flow and leave it alone, you can watch it flow through you. And it's an incredible thing. I'm at the grocery store. I got 5 items. Food is way too expensive right now. So I'm only buying 5 things for one recipe, and that is it. I'm not buying anything else, no cookies, no ding dongs, nothing. I'm just getting my recipe and I'm going home. Well, I walk by a can of beans, and here's my intuition. I don't want beans. I'm not going to eat those beans. I don't even like the damn things. And they're overpriced. They're not even on sale. Why do I want to grab these freaking beans? Oh, geez, I trust my intuition and I'm downright sick of it anyway. So I grab the beans, put it in the cart, pay for 6 things, and go home. Making a great recipe. I shove the beans all the way in the back of the cupboard. Screw those beans. I don't know why I have them. Well, 10 minutes later, neighbor knocks on the door and says, "Man, I'm making a recipe at home and I ran out of beans. Do you happen to have a can?" And we experiencers notice this kind of thing all the time. Every single damn day of our lives, we can either trust our intuition and watch how it plays out, or just stay in cognitive dissonance and let it battle in your mind. But you are who you are. And you can't deny your own true nature. You have become that over the years, and you should accept it. And I think science should, because it's a fact. And I think the rest of the world should put down this stigma and be accepting to who we are. I mean, um, these scientists at Stanford University, just to quote them, these people are not crazy. They belong running Fortune 500 companies. Can you imagine the intuitive thinking without facts? To hire the right people because you can feel who they are. This is gifted people, but yet, yeah, we do. We feel cursed. I feel cursed every day of my life. But can you
Yeah.
imagine going to the grocery store without all your receptors? Can you imagine that? I'd probably bump into something. I'd look like a child walking for the first time. I would bump into everything. My receptors would be just closed off, and all I got to do, is just deal with my eyes and my ears to get around in the world. I mean, I don't know how people do it. I don't.
Yeah, mate. Hey, I go into the supermarket, all I want to look at is chocolate. Give me chocolates. Yeah, my wife
We know
says, no. Your sugar level's going crazy.
we all know your dirty secret, B.
Oh, right, yeah. But
But yeah,
yeah.
I think over
Now,
time,
out of all the curses that you felt like you're being cursed, what good thing came out of this? What anything good came out of this?
I I have seen thousands of broken lives in so many different cultures, in so many different ways, so many different languages and families. I thought I knew about geography. I thought I knew about culture. For me, it was all the friends that I've gotten to meet and all the people I've gotten to help and the cultures that I've learned about and ways that are not the Western world. And for me, it gave me a very unbelievable but filled life that I never thought I could, experience.
Yeah.
I've got your wife is Filipino. I've got 80 friends in the Philippines out in the province, and one family owns half the mountain, and the other family owns the other half of the mountain, and they love to FaceTime me and stuff like that, and I don't mind. Every now and again, I'll send them $100, which is a lot of money for those
It
people,
is.
and they'll get their little Gcash cards, and they're all split up, $5 bills, $10 bills a piece, and they'll take off on their motorbikes going every direction, for the local store that looks like a yard sale to us Americans. They have
Yeah.
little stands sitting in front of their house where you can get a can of petrol and stuff like that, and they'll all meet up at the end of the night. Now you know this. In the Philippines, everyone owns a karaoke machine, and they love singing American music, right?
Magic C. They call it Magic C, mate. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. So
Yeah.
here's a $100 bill making 80 people happy as hell, just happy as hell. Now they have a buffet lined up. They got the karaoke machine fired up, and they call me
Food on the
FaceTime.
table nearly 24/7, mate. Food on the table nearly 24/7. And
Oh
the
yeah,
thing is,
yeah,
the family community in the Filipino family, right? The community within that is like, today I may not have rice, but tomorrow you will. So the families are close, so they share everything. That's how they survive. I mean, look,
yeah.
sadly to say, it's a third world country, and and that's what you've got to do. Your cousins and everybody, they virtually live at your house, sort of thing. If they've got no food, they're over at your place, sort of thing. But
Yeah.
yes, that's how they live, and but yet they look after each other, which I find it's absolutely beautiful, because too many people in our society, like in Australia, in America, and in Great Britain, when people get old, I'm not saying everyone, but a large majority get neglected and pushed aside. And they're only people only take notice of them saying, "Well, what did he leave me in the will?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's sad, and that's sad, But in the Filipino community, it's not like it's not. I wouldn't just say Filipino community. I think in the Asian community in general, through Thailand, Philippines, and I'll probably say China as well. They're very family orientated, very close. Very close indeed.
Yeah. I had this little girl.
Rephrase
Maria.
that.
Yeah. You can't cut me off, and you can't cut me off on sentences like that. But, Maria, I think she was 18, maybe 19 years old. It's when I first started talking to these families, and there's these objects flying all around the mountain. They're right on the water, and it's in the province, which means in the middle of the woods. And hey, what's up, Marcel? How you doing? But here's these objects floating around. So I'm thinking, I don't know their culture that well yet. Now I do, but I used to in the very beginning. I did. Now I know the Russian culture and all kinds of other cultures. I'd love to travel to these places and meet all these people someday, and I will, in my retirement. But one day I get a FaceTime call, and I look at it. It's Maria, and Grandma Poe, she's always grabbing her, putting her on screen, saying, "No, you marry." I'm like, "No, that's a child. I can't." No, it's legal. And I said, "No, I'm not going to marry a kid." But she calls me up FaceTime, and I answer it, and she goes, "Sir Poe, Eric, what the heck this?" And she turned her phone upside down to face the sky, and maybe 20 feet above her head is this orange fireball floating just above her, 20 feet. And I said, "Maria, go in the house right now. You're too close to that thing." She goes, "I think maybe satellite." And I said, "No, Maria, satellites are way up in the sky. They're not below palm tree level. You see the palm tree in the background. It was way above this object." I said, "Go inside. This can hurt your skin. It can hurt your eyes. You need to go inside right now." But she was so innocent. Just, "Sir Paul, what is this?" I'm like, "No, get away from the thing." But seeing story after story, picture after picture, video after video. I mean, who's got the best evidence in the world? The people do. Yeah. Screw the gun cameras. These gun cameras.
Before I ever got into ufology, I mean, my father's always known about my experience, right? I told him I wasn't sure. I told him at first I believed he knew the first one when I was actually being visited from the age of 7 to the age I was 13, on the average of 2 visits a year. He knew about that, but he told me not to talk about it. But as I've got older, he was actually sharing information, being an ex-Royal Marine commander, and he'll say they'll be out in the Atlantic, and he says, "Funny you talk about orange fireballs." He says, they call them fireballs in the sky. Yes, it's a natural phenomenon, but but how do you explain it when they go underwater from the air going down into traversing in the ocean, and then it's you can actually see it following the ship, no way, and then they take off, boom, gone like lightning speed, even underwater. The light you can see just go. And he says, "I'm not the only one that's seen this. A lot of people said, but we just kind of, it's a fireball. It's a lightning ball or whatever you call it." But he says, as soon as it hit the ground, it should have participated. It should have burst out, like it's Earth. It's gone, But it didn't. So it's not something new. It's definitely something new. My father was talking about this happened regularly during the Second World War. But
Absolutely.
yet we hear about the Foo Fighters. The Germans thought it was the Allies thought it was the Germans, but yet nobody really talked about the fireballs in the ocean. Now, the only time it was actually mentioned in the ocean originally was from Christopher Columbus' ship's log, saying the ship was being circled in the ocean with luminosities. And then after 3 or 4 days, something like that, it came out of the ocean and circled the ship in the air. And the crew were so superstitious and frightened, they changed course. And that's when they discovered the Americas.
Yeah.
Well, how about that? But nobody.
Actually, a true story.
Yeah, a true story. Exactly. And then we're talking about some pharaoh in Egypt. Well, all his soldiers are there. A bloody UFO hovering over his kingdom. And everybody looked at it with awe, and it was the shape of a shield. And that's how they described it.
They actually had a lot of gods back then, but once this orange fireball showed up, they denounced all the gods, and they shall only worship Uman-Ra, the sun god, from then on. So
actually, wasn't that supposed to be? I get mixed up with the Ra, the sun god, and the Anunnaki gods. Ilk and Enki. I mean, I won't go into that, but they've got the same characteristics. Did I ever show you the UFO? I call the UFO my Anunnaki starship. They call it my little Anunnaki starship. I got to show it to you. Right? I think I've got it. Oh no, listen. No, well, I've got to show you. I think I might have to take you out of the studio to blink you out there for a sec. When I find it. First of all, I've got a little video I can actually play. Okay. Now this is how long does this video go for? It's about 19-second video. Just on a sec. Let's see. Okay, this was taken at 4:30 in the morning, or 20 to 5 actually. 20 to 5 in the morning. There was two UFOs, one large one on the left, a small one on the right, which is moving towards the pole. And it's just before it went out, so I took a photograph of it. Now the photograph of it, do I have it here? Yeah. Let's see. Does it show up? I'll just remove it for a sec. Did you hear that? Hello? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All
yes,
right.
I hear. Now that as I said, there was two UFOs in that one, and if you look at the shape of it, looks like the sun god Ra with the arch, with the circle in the middle, right?
Yep.
I mean, it was actually. I did kind of register it with MUFON back in 2016. But somehow it seems to get buried. Nobody talks about it.
I've never heard of that happening. I have never heard of MUFON accidentally losing information. That's not like them.
Well, let's put it this way. Well, look. Why does the government put things out to contractors? Because they don't come under the Freedom of Information Act, right? That's all what they call whatever new technology they find out of crash retrieval, they can paint it, and it's their idea, and they can make products out of it. Like computer chips and whatever. But MUFON, the government doesn't I mean, move on. I mean, it's also could be. I'm not saying they are. So I've got to be very careful with my words here. What's to say they're not a private organisation that are collecting for the government?
I
Right?
I have seen hundreds and hundreds of cases and talked to these people personally where they would file a report with MUFON, hand over solid evidence, and that evidence was lost in the mail. It was lost here. It was lost there. Same story over and over. And it's a sad thing. Did I tell you? I don't think I've told you the story about Jeremy McKim, and it's fascinating. It has to go into the book, but he lived across the street from me over here, and it's called Sun Bay Resort, and his mother, and his father, who ran the resort, lived on the sixth floor, and he would go out on the balcony at night with his mother, and they would see the lights, the Milk Lane lights. And at the time, it was 2013. I lived on Milk Lane, and all this stuff was going on. So he has this view from the sixth floor of a skyscraper, and way off in the distance, he can see all these things coming down and moving around. He's like, "My gosh, they're aliens!" It was so funny the way he called them aliens. He just knew they were aliens. Well, I didn't know Jeremy McKim back then, but he was watching the activity every single night with his mother. It became a bonding time together, from what I was told. So in 2014, when I left to Maine, the lights stopped, you know, and Jeremy just always was so curious about where the aliens go. Are they going to be back? And he did. He checked every night, looking out the balcony, trying to see if there's any lights in the sky, and they were just never back. So I moved back to Arkansas little over a year ago. I finally get home. This long journey, I can say, is probably over, but so I move on the other side of that building, minding my own business. A few close encounters, happen, but nothing major. I mean, my neighbor back here, he moved away. He saw one up close and he moved out. He was gone the next day. And later on, I met him at his new job. He works at a bowling alley, and I walked up to shake his hand. He turned around and walked away like I had the cooties. But I got a call from Arkansas MUFON, and I know the lady. She said, "Eric, are you back home?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Hang up the phone, get your coordinates, and send them to me." And I said, "Well, okay, what's this about?" She goes, "I'll tell you later." I sent her the coordinates. She calls me back and she goes, "Okay, this is going to be hard to tell you, but in 2013, there was a man on the sixth floor of the Sun Bay Resort. He was watching the activity with his mom. Now he's watching activity on the other side of the building, and it matches his coordinates as well. These things are hovering over your home while you're sleeping, Eric." And she said, "This guy Jeremy, he wants to meet you. He's been watching your activity for years now." So I met Jeremy, 35 years old, full of life, hilarious guy. Went out for coffee a couple of times. We went out and had a few beers, and he had a ton of questions for me. And every night he would film these objects over my home, and he'd send them to me through Facebook Messenger. And so I've got all these clips of these fireballs hovering over my house. Of course, my doorbell camera has picked up, quite a few, but us experiencers, we don't want to know, we just want to go to sleep. We don't want to know anything's going on. And you know what I'm talking about. I sleep with my damn light
Yeah,
on. Look,
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. You ring me up at 2 o'clock in the morning telling me you're at Skinwalker Ranch.
next
I'm
time,
well aware.
next time I call you at 2 a.m., I'll probably be, I don't know, in the White House or something. There's no telling. But if I'm calling at 2 a.m., just answer the damn thing.
Oh, for
But
sure.
anyway, one day Jeremy texts me and he says, "I'm filming them, and it's during the daytime." He said, "I'm filming them now. This is the first time I caught him during the day." And I was busy. I couldn't get back with him immediately. He said, they're making my head vibrate like yours, Eric. I'm going to be able to do what you're doing." And I texted him back and I said, "Jeremy, get away from that. If you're feeling vibrations in your head, get off the balcony and go in the house." He didn't do it. There were military choppers circling the building, and one of them was following the object that was going very slow. It was just pacing it. and he had a perfect view being on the 6th floor. And from what I heard, he went into the bathroom and threw up. He got sick really fast, and he went into his bedroom to lay down. His father came into the bedroom with a cold washcloth and put it on his head, help him feel better. He was cold and clammy. Jeremy's arms straightened out, his eyes rolled into the back of his head, and he passed away. 35 years old, no medical problems whatsoever. The coroner report said that his blood pressure spiked so high that the oxygen was cut off to his brain, and he passed away from that. So we don't know what happened on that balcony, and sometimes I see his father, Rick, here in town. And of course, he looks at me and he stares at his shoes. That wasn't only just his only son that never had his grandkids, but they were buddies. They were rednecks together. They would mess with each other and prank each other. I mean, they just had such a beautiful relationship. And, I feel somewhat my responsibility was involved. If I wasn't around, would he still be alive? But there's been a lot of stories throughout the last 10 years, of people that unfortunately have to deal with this kind of thing. But when I think of Jeremy, I do most of the time smile because he was just an amazing guy, and we lost him too early in life. And so I still have all of his footage and everything like that, and I'll make that public eventually. What happened to him? That's Jeremy McKim. You can look him up on Facebook, and see. I'm telling the truth. He passed away.
I
But
believe you. I believe you. Yes, it's yeah, weird stuff does happen. I mean, yeah, it's like as I said before, for years I honestly believe I had a near-death experience, and I've read so many books about it, and none of it resonated, none of it whatsoever. Man, regarding what happened to me when I was between the age of 7 and the age of 13, I mean, my father told me not to talk about it and blah, 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 forget about it. It's my imagination going on or whatever. But he knew. I mean, we did eventually, as we got older, talked about it. But my eldest brother doesn't understand because he had an experience as well, and he doesn't know this. And that's the crazy thing about it. I was aware of it, but he was not aware of it. But it's not for me to tell him. I mean, I find it very difficult to talk to him about shit like that. But put all aside,
I'm
it wasn't
I'm not mad.
what wasn't until about 2006 or something like that, roughly around that period of time, as the internet picked up. We didn't have MSN Messenger or YouTube to have you look at everything you want to look at those days. You had what you call bulletin boards. And I was looking at a bulletin board and somebody was talking about blonde Nordic aliens. And I started reading it. And straight away, this guy described everything to me, in this bulletin board. I was just, okay. So I said, the more I thought about it, I did not need any convincing. It's like somebody pulled the veil, the curtains, open up the curtains and let the sun shine in. It was so obvious what happened. But what I did find strange, and everybody would describe a Nordic, blonde hair, blue eyes, and everything else, chiseled chin, looked perfect, but they are very, very white in color, translucent skin. It's like, have you ever seen a blister from a sunburn, and you've got that kind of translucent type, plasticky type look, a translucent type skin, with fluid underneath. Imagine the old face looking that, but it's got a sheen of a mother of pearl.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy that actually spoke to me telepathically. That's exactly what he looked, but nobody described what the skin actually looked like. Now, if you actually got that being and put foundation on his face, like a powder, like women put on in the morning, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. You'll just look like you or I. you know, a foundation cream or something like, oh, want a suntan today? You put it on, you can have any shade you want. You put on one of those Nordics, mate, you wouldn't know. You can walk down the street, you know, have a beanie on his head. You would think it's just another guy, you know, just walking around, you know. But it's weird. It's weird. It really is weird. But as I said before earlier on, more of it's a curse than anything. But I'm glad that that's the main reason I got into this, is that I don't get enough people, but people seem to be frightened to talk about it, or they're afraid to be ridiculed, you know. And I'm not doing this podcast. I don't want to become famous or anything like that. Far from it. But it allows me to talk about it. It allows me to listen to other people like yourself, because it's good therapy for us, believe it or not. I mean, it really is. And that's how I look at it. Even though it kind of hashes up feelings, it still allows us to get it out. And that's why I put links in my chat there. If people want to come and talk about it, if you had any experience, click on the link, come on the show and talk about it. I'm not laughing. I want to hear it. You know, I want to hear your. I want to hear your experience. I don't say story. I try to stay away from story. I want to hear your experience. You know, I'm not interested in stories. I'm interested in your experience, you know, and your experience counts, you know. And honestly, people would feel a lot better. And if more people open up about it, it'd be a better world, man. It really would be a better world.
Oh, it is so true. It is so true. You hit the nail on the head. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a phone call through Starborn Support or other organizations all over the world, and nobody knows who to talk to. And I've gained a reputation, you know, from other people, and they all refer them to me, you know. And I can't tell you how many times they'll start crying. Grown men, tough as nail. It doesn't matter who you are. This is the first time I've talked about this, and all of a sudden it all rushes out because it's so pent up inside, and you
Been
think
down
it's
that road.
you think it's so manageable, and you're fine, you're okay, you're fine, and then you open up and talk to someone about it, and all those emotions come rushing out. And the most surprised person is the one telling it, because they had no idea they were gonna break down. They had no idea how much was pent up inside, and they had no idea the next day they would be a better father, a better wife, you know, a better employee, a better everything. They're just so freed from all of this concern. They just need to let it out, and it changes their life. Just
I'm guilty for bubbling up, mate. I'm guilty of bubbling up myself. You know, I really am, because you carry it for so many frigging years. You know, and you think, am I freaking crazy or what? You know, or it's like when you you thought it was a near-death experience, and you're living with the fear of death to a point. You know, I mean, why did I have? Why did I die? Why did I die? You know, so you got all these questions you ask. You know. Now here am I, 73. Obviously, my health was pretty good to get me to 73. So, you know, I mean, it's one way I haven't killed myself in many ways, mate, with my lifestyle I've had in the past, alcohol and all that stuff. You know, I mean, I've been there, done that. You know, I had a life. You know, typical teenager, typical idiot. You know, I've done lots of stupid things in my life, but yeah, and yes, I do understand where you just start talking about it, and all of a sudden you've got this lump coming up, and you say, "Oh," it's like you're opening up a can of worms. It's like you remember I was telling you that I've been meaning to talk to Mary Rodwell, the nurse, come psychologist, hypnotherapist. She's a well-renowned now. Yeah. Well, she sent me a questionnaire before she actually did the actual therapy with me.
Mm-hmm.
I still got the questionnaire. I still haven't filled it out, because deep down inside, I'll be honest with you, I'm shit scared, man. Because after my experience, my experience was totally euphoric. Oh, it's wonderful, felt great, you know. When I woke up, came to, and with a punch in the chest, profusely sweating, freezing cold, And the first time in my life that day, I had chronic anxiety attack, panic attack, laying on the floor on the tiles and just in my jocks, sweating and everything. I felt like I'm dying. And I suffered with that for a couple of years, right? Don't tell me that experience I had was really all rosy, even though that's all I can remember. Something dramatic happened to me to put my body in sort of a shock, And the thing is, I'm afraid to go through this hypnotherapy regression because I don't know what can of worms I'm going to open.
B, you should be afraid. You should be afraid, and you should be really, really prepared, because your subconscious mind remembers everything. It doesn't know how to lie. So it's going to come out. Whatever happened, it's going to come out. And guess what? You've got to face it. And some people think it's going to be easy for them. It's not. I mean,
I know
spent a year
because I'm scared. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I know this show's about you, but we're relating. We're relating to it.
Exactly. It's about all of us. It really is. It's never about me. It's never about you. We as a whole are a large population all over the world. You wouldn't believe how many of us there are with suffrage, pain inside. We feel separate from an entire society, that was built away from us, and it's always a separation, and it's a terrible feeling, and we have to live with that. But regression, I spent an entire year chasing the bottom of a bottle, trying to get away from what was pulled out of my head that day. And it was an hour and a half of, I still can't believe it. I can't believe it. This can't be real. But it's also a lie detector test, because your subconscious does not know how to lie. So whatever you're chasing, you have got to be ready to face that. And it's not easy, my friend. Make sure you have plenty of family and friends and people that understand around you at all times, because it comes out. You see the sights, you smell the smells, you can hear the crickets, you can smell the grass. I mean, your brain goes back there, and all of its detail, and it's going to hit you,
Yeah.
And
see, Eric,
once you do it,
all I remember is this experience. This experience I had. It's still so vividly clear, like it only happened a couple of hours ago. It's vividly clear. And what I can't get out of my head is the things he said to me. It's like, one day you're going to come to a crossroad, and it depends on which path you take at this crossroad. And he says, and everything will be revealed, and it will start and it will happen automatically. Well, here I am today doing a podcast. I didn't want to do a podcast when I retired. I'll be honest, I didn't want to do any of this stuff. Honestly. Am I enjoying
I remember when you
carry on.
Yeah, I remember when you started. I wanted to be the co-host and everything, and next thing you know, all my social medias are shut down. My electronics are not working. Turns out, I had a huge hack into my Google account. I wasn't even getting messages for almost a year, almost a full year. Somebody wanted me to be in the dark, and that just lets me know that I was doing a good job back then. And thank you for whoever you are. Thank you for hacking me. I got a little bit of a break. I needed a breather. I needed to enjoy life for myself for a little while, but I'm back.
I actually believe it. I get a lot of messages on Facebook from Facebook saying I violated this community stance. I haven't done anything wrong, we have barred you to doing certain things for a certain 30 days. Yeah, sent to sin bin for 30 days. There are certain things you can do and what you can't do. There was one time I couldn't do anything for a full week.
Oh yeah, I started Twitter almost a year ago, and I just post a few pictures of myself and some friends, and that's it. And I've been banned twice for life. There is no suspension or anything. Your account has been suspended for life. What did I do on Twitter? I never even get on the damn thing. But it's just ridiculous. Banned for life.
Maybe it's better now, but that we've got Elon Musk taking the reign. You know, so
hopefully, I see people on Twitter doing things that they should be arrested for, and I post a picture of myself. Post a picture of myself, and I'm banned for life. You know, no explanation, no nothing. Just you're out.
I get up for community stands for because I post something which somebody else posted, which is quite decent, right? I mean, it wasn't rude or anything. But yet you turn on your computer and go in, and there's this young filly shaking her booty,
Right.
Yeah, right? Half
Right.
boobs hanging out, and you can just see a glimpse of pubic hair. And I'm like, yeah. And I actually said, look, I actually kind of went barred, you know, like, I don't want to see your content, and ask you, why don't you want to see this content anymore? And I said, I'm not interested in looking at fat asses and God knows what, right? That's what I said. Guess what?
Right.
They barred me for bullying.
Oh God, you terrible man.
Yeah, well, let's face it. I mean, at my age, I've got a beautiful wife I can adore to look at anytime I want. I don't want to be looking at trash on bloody internet. I'll go on to post stuff, read stuff. You know, people don't understand. You know, when you've got a Facebook page with 5,000 followers and 2,500 members in your club, and then you're running a podcast. This is a full-time freaking job for a retired man. People don't understand how much it's time consuming. I put more hours into this than I did in my own job.
It is. I've got my own YouTube, and me and a good friend Heidi, we like to get on and do interviews every now and again. And we did Mike McClellan. You know, he dove deep into the owl phenomenon when it comes to experiencers. I got a chance because I knew years ago before Dr. Roger Lear passed away. He contacted me. Steve Colburn, his geologist, checked me out, and they said I had several implants in me. And we were going to meet at the Dolores Cannon conference about 3 hours north of here in Arkansas, Ozark Mountains. And unfortunately, a couple of weeks before I met Dr. Lear in person, he passed away. But I did get to know some of the other patients, you know, that he removed these objects from. And I got to learn a lot about implants and stuff like that. Well, last year I was contacted by Duo Entertainment. They're a Japan company, but they're based out of Los Angeles. And so they wanted to do a show on implants. So I got a hold of my friend Timothy. He was, I think, patient 9. And Timothy's a great guy, older guy, really dead set on what he's been through. He's been through this for so many years. And his implant was removed. Dr. Roger Lear passed away, so all the implants went missing. And all of ufology were saying, we know the CIA took all those implants, right? So I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I told the TV show I'd help them. You know, when TV shows do alien shows, they pick people that know they're in the know, and they picked me. So I got a hold of his great niece, and I asked her. I said, "Do you know where all of his stuff went?" She goes, "Yeah, I packed his house up myself and put it all in my basement." I found the implants, all 17, almost 18 of them, but they didn't cut me yet. You know, so I said, I need you to go downstairs, find the little box. It's going to be a clear case. It's got a little bit of foam in the bottom, and you're going to find a tiny piece of metal inside the foam. The one that's labeled number 9. I need you to send it to me. I'll send you a contract. I'm responsible for it. You will get your uncle's stuff back. So I sent the implant and patient 9, along with the geologist, Steve Colburn, and the whole film crew out to California. Now, they were trying to find a lab that would actually run a spectrograph on this remarkable piece of metal. And they finally did. And the damn name, I kid you not, the damn name of the lab was called Lear Lab. So Timothy calls me and he said, "Gosh dang it, Eric, you sent me to a lab called Lear Lab with Lear's implants, you know." And so it was really emotional. It was really emotional for Tim because he was reunited after 22 years with the implant, and this thing had 52 different metals in it, that most of which are not even from our solar system. The atomic alignment was perfect, as if someone knew how to play with atoms and line everything up perfectly. They had microtubules inside these things where a needle the size of an atom can fit inside. For some reason, we don't understand what this technology is. But next thing you know, I'm on social media, and I've got Japan people friend requesting me left and right. I'm like, well, there's the show. The show must have came out. But yeah, it was a great ordeal. But it was just so many chapters in this type of life that just seems so far out there. I wake up every morning and I'm like, I cannot believe my life. How can I expect anybody else to? And guess what? People don't have to believe my life, but I can still make a difference in this world before I check out. So why not? Why not make a difference? If it's one person or a group of people, or maybe even a whole country, make the world a better place and check out.
So agree. Anyway, listen, I like to request people out there, just hit the like and subscribe. It's I want quality people, not quantity. But if you like the show, do it. If you're not, just call back, come in anytime you want. Don't have to subscribe if you don't want.
That's right, folks. Finger this man's button.
Yeah, the old derriere,
Right.
I do have a thumb here, actually. Well, I did. I've got to do this. Yeah, see that? Give that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and if you look up in the right-hand corner, subscribe. Your channel. This is your channel, not mine. It's your channel. And listen, if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see my email address. Or listen, just send me a message any old way. You'll see it's to be a truth seeker. That's my email, to be a truth seeker @gmail.com. If you want to come on the show and just let me know what you want to talk about or what you want to share. Hey, I'd love to have you on, and I can send you the link to come and join me on the show. This is about you guys. It's not about me. So I'll be kind of waiting. I'll be anticipating your call, and I'd love to have you on board. Hey, more the merrier. That's what I reckon. What do you reckon, Eric? More the merrier?
I think you're right. I think the more experiencers come forward and just do a simple interview, just like you and I, it spreads awareness. You're doing something for other people. I feel like both of us are doing something for someone right now. Someone out there that has been in our shoes way back in the day, and we're doing something just by having this conversation. And so
I'm having fun doing it. I'm having
exactly.
fun doing it, meeting lovely people. Hey, if you want to come on and drink your Jack Daniels while you talk, that's fine with me. You want to choke on your cone, that's okay by me. Hey, yes, you do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. As long as you, hey, and you don't have to agree. You can agree to disagree. You got to respect each other. Just got to respect. Anyway, Eric, I think it's time to call this a quit. We've been on an hour and 44 minutes now. We'll wait until an hour and 45. 45. No, it's time to call it quits. But listen, I'd love to do this again with you, mate.
We're going to have next time we're on, we're going to have a special guest along with us, and I think it's going to be a fascinating show.
If you're available tomorrow, I'm hoping to have a panel show on in approximately about another what's the time now? In about 10 hours, 10 hours time.
Well,
11 hours
I think
time.
you know why. I think you know why. Other folks will find out later. I think you know why, but I have to do the show with you after the 5th, because that's when that's when certain information is going to come out, and other people can come along with us and have that conversation.
That's wonderful. Well, anyway, we can talk all about that stuff on the old Ring a Deer, and have our little private talk, and we'll get people up to date with it after the 5th, say, okay? So
I'll bring Jack Daniel.
Thank you. You do that. I thank you very much for coming on the show, mate. Much appreciated. So
my pleasure.
and,
Good to see you, B.
Oh, mate, this is. I've enjoyed the time, and thank you everybody for joining us. And remember, just be nice to each other, be kind, lift each other up, that we can all rise up together and aspire to inspire one another. That's it. Let's bring out the best in our fellow man with each other, okay? And remember, if you can't be good, don't get caught. I won't tell. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye now. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.